Well, I'm a bit behind on this story. I should have talked about it last week, but nonetheless, I think it's very important that we talk about it because I think this is a story that could push guitar equipment into an era that is very anti-consumer. It could be very bad for us, and I'd really rather if it wasn't. So I think we should talk about it now. The world of digital amp simulations, modeling, and capturing is a very successful one. A lot of people are using these products made by a multitude of different companies, and they're successful for a couple of different reasons. One, they can sound very good. Another reason is that it's convenient to have a lot of different effects, a lot of different amps, basically a whole rig in one box. And probably one of the main reasons is travel. It's very easy to travel with these products because they're a lot lighter than the traditional guitar amp. In fact, that's become such a good selling point that almost every major amp modeling and amp profiling brand has released a smaller, more portable unit compared to their main flagship model. And with all of these products being digital, they do require firmware updates. And normally, it's not just bug fixes. Sometimes it is, but a lot of the time they sprinkle in little extras. Sometimes it's as simple as a new effect, a different type of delay, or a different overdrive to add to the multiple that are already in the units. Sometimes it's a little bit more, maybe some more amplifiers, but sometimes it's even bigger. Sometimes it's major feature upgrades. For example, I think of Line 6 of the HX Stomp. It initially had 6 blocks that you could use in the HX Stomp, and then they updated it to where you could use 8 blocks. That was a major feature upgrade that helped and improved the lives of a lot of users of the HX Stomp. And a very important thing to note here is that all these updates were free. Okay, we're talking all of the competitors. We're talking Line 6, Axe Effects, Kemper, Head Rush, Boss, pretty much everyone who was making amps or amp simulations, modelers, profilers, they're all doing those updates for free, even when they bump up the feature spec of the unit. And there is a reason for that. See, it didn't used to be like that. Initially, in some of the pods that Line 6 were making, they would charge for upgrades, updates, adding feature sets and effects to their units. And then everything changed when the Axe Effects came out, and it showcased to everyone in the industry that the customers were willing to pay a bit more for the hardware, but only so long as the updates, the software, was free. So that's what the industry moved to, charging more for the physical unit, but updating things for free, adding a couple of features here and there, and everyone was happy. And that's what this video is about, because Kemper have decided that they want kind of a piece of both pies. They want to charge more for the physical units and then charge more again. That's right. Today we're going to be talking about the Kemper Player. It's their smaller pedalboard friendly device, and it's on the higher end price of things, retailing for €699 at most retailers. It's on the higher end compared to a good chunk of its competitors. But now, just last week, Kemper announced 2 new levels of, and they're saying this, upgrades. There's a reason they're calling them upgrades and not updates. All their competitors would call these updates when they're free, but now that they're charging, they're upgrades. So now let's take a look at these different levels. I think level 1 is the player out of the box. For €699, you get a product that has 136 different effects in it. And that's a considerable amount, especially when you look at other brands' flagship models. The Neural DSP Quad Cortex has 105 different effects. The Line 6 Helix has 192 different effects. And then if you look at the Kemper Player, 136, not bad. But the thing is, this level 2 steps it up to all the Kemper effects, so that's 440, which is a lot. Like, especially when you compare it to other flagships, then it's what, over 4 times the amount of the Quad Cortex, over double the amount of the Helix, and it begs the question: how many people actually need that many effects? Sure, it's a nice additive, but do that many people in the customer base require 440 different effects? Like, that's a lot. I don't think I could even name that many. So there is that. The second thing, though, that kind of adds to level 2's upgrade is just some basic life improvements, things that you would expect to get kind of for free, like basic things like EQ on the output. Like, that's kind of a basic thing, but no, they're charging for that in level 2. And then level 3 is kind of the one that I think most people would want. Most people would see a definitive life improvement with, because while everybody doesn't need a 440 effects, the Kemper Player only allows you out of the box, both level 1 and level 2, to use 4 effects at a time. 2 before the amp, 2 after the amp. And that's not a whole lot, especially if you're doing covers that require different effects. So with level 3, the big takeaway and the big additive is that you can use 8 effects, 4 post, 4 pre, and that's a huge improvement on that unit, and it allows a lot more versatility and just generally improves things for a lot of players. It makes the product a lot more useful for a lot more people, right? That's a big improvement, and it is similar to that upgrade and update that I mentioned several years ago at the beginning of this video about the HX Stomp. Line 6 took from 6 blocks to 8 blocks. Big improvement for a lot of people. And this is also a big improvement for a lot of people with the Kemper Player. The difference, though, is that Kemper are charging for it, and frankly through the nose. Now, what are those prices? Well, if you bought a Kemper Player for €699 and you wanted to upgrade to level 2, meaning that you get a couple of life improvements and you get the access to all the Kemper effects, that's going to cost you €179. It's quite a bit. But we're not done. Because, like I said, not everybody's going to really need those effects. You're going to want level 3, which allows you to use 8 effects at once in the one rig rather than 4. It's doubling the capabilities of the unit, basically. Big improvement. That'll cost you €149. But here's the wrinkle. You can't get level 3 without getting level 2 first. Which means that if you want that feature, you can buy them singularly. You can buy level 2 and then level 3, and that'll cost you more. Or you can buy both of them as a package deal for €300 or €299. It's €300. So that means that if you want the Kemper Player to be maxed out to what it can do, it's just shy of €1,000, just shy of $1,000. If you actually look at it, just the upgrades for €299, that's 42.7% of an upcharge from retail cost. And that to me it's just frankly ridiculous. You could argue, and what Kemper does, that this brings the Kemper Player up to the same level as the flagship Kempers. And yes, it does. But for €1,000, it seems a little bit tone deaf, considering I can go into Reverb right now and I can get a Kemper Profiler, which, by the way, does a lot more than the Kemper Player in the sense that you can actually profile things with it, which is kind of the big part of the Kemper. I can get it secondhand for €820. So I don't see a huge value proposition here for paying, frankly, exorbitant rates to upgrade the Kemper Player. Now, I've seen some people compare what Kemper are doing here to Eventide with the H9, and I'm not quite sure I agree with the comparison. See, Eventide offered the H9, which is a pedal, same hardware, but in 3 different configurations. They had the core, which is the basic amount of effects, then there was a middle one with a middle amount of effects, and then there was the max with all of the effects they offered. And the difference there is that Eventide were just charging for effects, and that is one thing. If Kemper were just charging for effects, that would be one thing, but they're not. Eventide didn't handicap a device and then charge its users to unlock its functionality. They weren't selling functionality of the unit, they were just selling different effects that you may or may not want. Some people don't want the extra Kemper effects, that's fine, but you have to buy them. That's level 2, to get to level 3, which is the functionality aspect of the device. The device is fully capable of running 8 effects at once, but they're just charging you extra for it to do it. It's like if you bought a laptop and you had to pay extra for the CPU to be unlocked to get more power, more processing power of the laptop. I mean, Apple is hated, and even they don't do that. And the thing is, Kemper could have got away with this if they charged a reasonable fee, like €80 or something like that. Most people would kind of, they wouldn't be happy about it, but they'd be willing to pay a bit. But 342.7% of the retail cost of the unit? Like, that's a joke. Selling effects is one thing, but selling core functionality is something that I can't get behind. And it's not like you're even getting anything here. They are giving you less from the get-go intentionally so that they can then sell back the features of the unit to you. I can't get behind that. That is not something that I want to see any company do. This is, if you ask me, it's just a very anti-consumer thing. And I don't know if Kemper realize this, but they're making their competition look very good. And not just in digital amps, like physical analog amplifiers. No company is going to charge you extra to use channel 2 on your amp. And then if you look at the digital competitors, like Neural DSP haven't had the best publicity in the last couple of weeks, but this is making them look good. They didn't do this. And it's also opened the door to those who are going to be doing some free updates to use that as a good bit of publicity. Just the other day, IK Multimedia with Tonex announced that they were coming out with a free update. They were very, very, very prominently showcasing that it was free. Because Kemper has made it that it's not free. And it was a major update too that they've announced is coming soon. Something that it's going to add a lot of effects, a lot of functionality. It's a functional update. And they're not charging extra for it. Now, I've had a look at Kemper's social media, and comments on it aren't particularly pleased with this development, although some are just eager to defend it. Oh, you're just greedy and self-centered. You just want free updates. Well, no. If you're going to charge for updates, go back to the old ways of doing things. Charge less for the physical unit and charge for the software. Kemper want a bit of both. They're charging €700 for a product and then charging 300 more to unlock its features, which is just not on. And I sincerely hope that it backfires for them. And the reason why is because this is a business where everybody copies each other. And if they're successful with this, everyone else is going to copy it too, and it's just going to be a nightmare. And so I really hope they don't get success with this way of business. It happened with cars. You pay more to unlock a Tesla's top speed, and then Mercedes did it, and others did it because it was successful. I really hope that this is not successful. So that's my take on the Kemper Player paid updates. I'm not calling it upgrades. Like the video if you liked it. Subscribo if you're cool. And I'll see you next time. Bye bye.